Starsky and Hutch was a classic 1970s series that not only permeated the world of pop culture in that decade, but also has had a fair amount of staying power over the years. Passion for the show and the fun world it inhabited was reignited in 2004 with the movie adaptation starring Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. And with a TV reboot on the way, we're sure to be talking a lot more about this fun and action-packed show for a while. In this video, we're taking a look at the main cast of the original Starsky and Hutch to find out what they've been doing since the show ended. So stay tuned as Facts First presents Starsky and Hutch Cast Then and Now. The original series. Starsky and Hutch followed the stories of two detectives living in a fictional city in Southern California called Bay City. They worked together to solve crimes in the city, often clashing with but respecting their police captain Harold Dobey. Dobey, played by Bernie Hamilton, was a classic TV police captain who insisted on doing things by the books and would often get frustrated at the antics and style of Starsky and Hutch. The other primary role we consistently saw was Huggy Bear, an informant they utilized to help them get the lowdown on what types of crimes were going down. The show had many stylistic choices it was known for, perhaps most notable being the red Ford Gran Torino that they cruised in. It was also an important show in terms of the way it looked at male partnerships and personalities. Starsky and Hutch, while being macho detectives, were at the same time very affectionate and caring towards each other. This was certainly ahead of its time and played against the stereotypical tropes of machismo and toxic masculinity. It also potentially led to the show's downfall, as it was the precursor to lessening the amount of violence on the show. And while with good intent, fans still wanted a show about police detectives to be fairly straight ahead with its depictions of violence and action. Paul Michael Glaser, Starsky. Paul Michael Glaser was a working actor when he was cast in the role of David Starsky, but it was certainly the role that turned him into a star. Prior to that, he'd been cast in a variety of TV shows, stage productions, and movies. Notably, he played Perchik in the film adaptation of the classic musical Fiddler on the Roof. He also had parts in shows like Kojak, The Rockford Files, and The Waltons. But when Starsky and Hutch started to take off, he became a household name. Glaser had a complex relationship to the show and his newfound stardom. He loved getting steady work and feeling like his career was continuing on the path upwards to stardom. But at the same time, he wasn't super comfortable with some of the more invasive aspects of becoming a famous celebrity. He also wasn't particularly fond of his role, and he began to make clear before too long that he wanted to get out of his contract. Though the show did afford him the opportunity to try his hand at directing. He directed 5 episodes during its run, and he continued that after the show was canceled. Among his directing work was the movie The Running Man, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was a sci-fi action movie that has developed a cult following over the years. He also directed some other popular flicks like The Cutting Edge and Shaquille O'Neal's Kazam. Plus, he continued to direct TV episodes, trying his hand in series like Judging Amy in Las Vegas. He's continued to act as well. In recent years, he's been seen on the screen in popular shows like Ray Donovan and Grace and Frankie. Glaser also had expanded his artistic ventures over the years, adding works of art to his body of work. He had a solo exhibition of his art in 2018 and continues to sell his stuff online on his site and via Instagram. Sadly, Glaser also has had a share of tragedies over the years. In 1980, his wife Elizabeth received a blood transfusion while giving birth to their daughter Ariel. Tragically, both mother and daughter ended up contracting HIV from the transfusion. Both of them lost their life to the disease, which was, of course, a traumatic and horrible time in Glaser's life. Before dying, Elizabeth had actually become friendly with Princess Diana, who was a well-known advocate for people with HIV and AIDS. Eventually, Glaser did remarry to a woman named Tracy Barone, and the pair had a daughter together. Sadly, their union only lasted until a 2007 divorce. David Soul, Hutch. Like Paul Michael Glaser, David Soul was a working actor before joining the cast of Starsky and Hutch. And similar to Glaser, his role in Starsky and Hutch was the one that catapulted him to stardom. He'd been on a handful of great TV shows, ranging from sitcoms like I Dream of Jeannie and All in the Family, to sci-fi shows like Star Trek, to a starring turn on a short-lived Western series, Here Come the Brides. Once Starsky and Hutch became a hit, Soul found himself a household name as well. He matched his co-star's decision to also direct some episodes of the show. That continued after the show ended, with directing credits including shows like Miami Vice and China Beach. Like Glaser, his acting work also continued through the years. One of his biggest post-Hutch roles was as David Mears in the miniseries Salem's Lot. It was a horror series based on the novel from Stephen King. In it, Soul played a man who comes back to his hometown after being away for a while. He's surprised and horrified to find out the town now consists completely of vampires. It was a far cry from his role as a police detective, but Soul shined in it. He had a simultaneous career going on with his acting and directing, and that was in music. Prior to landing the role of Hutch, he had spent time on the Merv Griffin show as the masked musician, where he'd play the guitar and sing with his face covered up. In 1976, in the middle of Starsky and Hutch's run, Soul released a solo album. On it was the song Don't Give Up on Us, which ended up being a massive hit. The song went to #1 on the Billboard charts in the US, as well as many other countries around the world. He even performed it in 1977 for the 25th Jubilee celebration for Queen Elizabeth. Soul released 4 more albums and toured to support them, and in 2020 put out a best-of album as well. In addition to artistic endeavors, he spent his time advocating for causes close to his heart. These include things like Native American land rights and water quality. He's been involved in producing documentaries on these issues as well. Now in his late 70s, Soul was last seen on screen in the movie Filth, starring James McAvoy. In it, he even sings a song of his, Silver Lady, in a scene featuring some car karaoke. These days, he lives in London with his wife, Helen Snell. He was in an assortment of marriages over the years, with 6 kids in total. He has also come a long way from his troubled past. In the 1980s, he ended up serving time in prison after he domestically abused his 3rd wife. Bernie Hamilton, Captain Dobey. Bernie Hamilton won praise for his stellar work on Starsky and Hutch, in particular for not falling into some of the stereotypes that were expected at the time for black actors. This was something he'd made a career out of already, having played Jackie Robinson in The Jackie Robinson Story, as well as a role in One Potato, Two Potato, which was groundbreaking in that it had Hamilton playing a black man with a white wife. The producers of Starsky and Hutch were so enamored of his prior work, they offered him the part of Captain Dobey without an audition process. But after the show ended, he soon shifted away from acting. His final role was in a 1985 episode of The Love Boat. Like David Soul, Bernie had a love for music and made a career shift into that industry. He founded a record label called Chocolate Snowman. The label put out gospel and soul records, and occasionally Bernie would produce and sing on them as well. He occasionally also worked with his brother, the talented and famous jazz drummer Chico Hamilton. Sadly, Bernie died in 2008 from cardiac arrest. Antonio Fargas, Huggy Bear. Antonio Fargas was a staple of early blaxploitation films, appearing in famous titles like Cleopatra Jones, Foxy Brown, and Shaft. On the back of these roles, he scored the part of Huggy Bear. He quickly became a fan favorite and was able to parlay his success on Starsky and Hutch into many years of solid acting work. He's been able to work in a variety of genres, from a long stint on a soap opera, All My Children, to work on action shows like Charlie's Angels and MacGyver, to comedic parts on shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Living Single. More recently, he was a series regular on the popular Everybody Hates Chris. It was announced in late 2022 that he'd be in the cast of Murder City, a new show on Tubi. Fargas has 4 kids from 2 different marriages. One of them is Justin Fargas, who had a successful career playing in the NFL. Now it's time to hear from you. Who was your favorite character from Starsky and Hutch? Let us know in the comments section below.